Kia ora, nau mai, haere mai. Welcome to a story of resilience, adaptability and cultural strength, the history of Te Reo Māori. It is a living story added to every day by the identity, culture and aspirations of past, present and future generations, evolving with changing environments, technology and realities. Ake, Te Reo Māori is a forever language. While the language movement has blossomed in the last 30 years, there's a long road ahead. In the next 12 to 15 minutes, you will learn about the challenges that Te Reo Māori faces and how you can be part of the ever-growing Reo Māori movement today. Did you know that around 7,000 languages are spoken and signed worldwide today? About 40% of all of these languages are endangered and at risk of disappearing. A language disappears when its last speaker passes away. And sadly, every few weeks, a language dies somewhere in the world. Experts usually define three main reasons why languages become endangered. The first reason is globalisation. As globalisation increases and the world becomes more interconnected, the number of languages in the world decreases. Big languages spoken by more people replace languages spoken by smaller communities. True or false? Half of the world's population, about 4 billion people, speaks only 20 out of the 7,000 languages that exist today. This is true. A small number of languages are spoken by a large number of people, while many languages are spoken by relatively few. This graph shows the top 10 most spoken languages in the world as of 2023. You probably speak one or more of these languages as your native tongue. The second reason for languages disappearing is colonisation. Colonised communities were often forced to abandon their languages and learn the language of their colonisers. This meant that the incredible variety of the world's cultures and languages has been replaced by just a handful of coloniser languages. Discrimination, negative attitudes, and social bias towards specific communities and languages also affect language use. When people are mistreated because of their language or culture, they tend to abandon that language. Globalisation, colonisation, and social biases all influence the use of Te Reo Māori in Aotearoa. Let's take a closer look at its history. Te Reo Māori is one of the Malay Polynesian languages. It has close relatives in the Cook Islands, Tahiti, and the Tuamotu archipelago. The history of Te Reo Māori began when the ancestors of today's Māori people migrated to Aotearoa. They brought their Polynesian languages with them. Over centuries, those Polynesian languages developed new vocabulary related to the region's flora, fauna, and cultural practices. They also changed grammatically, eventually becoming a single language. That's when Te Reo Māori was born as a separate language unique to Aotearoa. Initially, the arrival of Europeans in the early 18th century had a modest impact on Te Reo Māori and culture. Māori were eager to trade with Europeans, supplying towns and cities with livestock and crops. Māori developed business relationships internationally, trading in the South Pacific and Australia. Initial contact with Europeans led to an exchange of ideas and language. It is estimated that there were 200,000 Māori and less than 2,000 non-Māori in Aotearoa at that time. Te Reo Māori was the language of discourse and trade. The first missionary school was established in 1816, and by the 1830s, there were numerous mission schools. Māori who attended mission schools returned to their pā and created their own schools. It is estimated that by the early 1840s, half of adult Māori could read and write in Te Reo Māori. He whakaputanga o te rangatiratanga o New Tireni was signed at Waitangi on October 28, 1835. It was followed by Te Tiriti o Waitangi in February 1840. Until the late 19th century, Pākehā officials and missionaries would communicate with Māori in Te Reo Māori. Pākehā children growing up with Māori children also learned to speak Te Reo Māori fluently. Epidemics decimated the Māori population, and land loss through conflict and legislation deprived Māori of an economic base. By the 1860s, Pākehā were the majority and English was dominant. Te Reo Māori was now confined to Māori communities, and speaking it was discouraged. This mirrored colonialist practices of forced assimilation in other parts of the world. School Inspector Henry Taylor wrote in 1862, "I do not advocate for the natives under present circumstances a refined education or high mental culture. It would be inappropriate. If we remember that they are better calculated by nature to get their living by manual rather than by mental labour. The Native Schools Act of 1867 established a system of village primary schools. Māori were required to donate the land for the schools and contribute to the costs of building and teachers' salary. Any display of the Māori culture at these schools was discouraged, and children were punished for speaking Te Reo Māori." In 1930, Director of Education T.B. Strong wrote, "The natural abandonment of the native tongue inflicts no loss on the Māori. By 1953, only 26% of Māori children could speak Te Reo Māori, down from the 90% in 1913. Whakarohia. Pause and think. Why should tamariki learn their reo? Disruption of intergenerational language transmission leads to fewer speakers, cultural erosion, and weakened community ties. When one generation makes the decision to stop speaking the language to their children, it endangers the language for the following generations." The position of Te Reo Māori continues to deteriorate during World War II. Work shifts to towns where English is spoken in most daily situations. Māori had to speak English to find jobs in urban New Zealand. Moreover, Māori parents encouraged their children to speak English in hopes of securing a better future. This had unintended consequences for Te Reo Māori, creating a generation of Māori who could no longer speak their language. After the war, Māori were scattered among Pākehā neighbours, isolating them from Te Reo Māori-speaking communities. The 1960 Hun Report on Māori Affairs made explicit for the first time in an official document the gaps between Māori and Pākehā. Māori life expectancy was 15 years lower than that of Pākehā. There were no Māori in higher education, and Māori unemployment was 3 times that of Pākehā. By the 1970s, fewer than 20% of Māori spoke Te Reo, and the language was no longer common in Māori homes. Māori leaders recognised the danger of losing Te Reo Māori, which would mean losing a central part of Māori identity and culture. A revitalisation movement began in the 1960s and 70s, led by groups like Ngā Tamatoa, Te Reo Māori Society and Te Huinga Rangatohe.
This day has been organised and sponsored by the New Zealand Federation of Māori Students. The theme of the day is to bring to the notice of the public the need for both Māori and Pākehā to learn something of the Māori language, thus to learn and to understand more of the Māori way of life.
Ka haere ngā tangata ki te mātakitaki i ngā koha. Ki tōnu te atamira o te haroi i ngā koha.
The key to ensure that Māori culture will survive, intermingle and enrich New Zealand society is the Māori language.
September 14, 1972 became one of the most important days in the modern history of Te Reo Māori. On that day, the activists petitioned Parliament to promote the language. The petition was signed by 30,000 people from across Aotearoa. The significance of that day continues to resonate today, as every year in September we celebrate the Māori Language Week, Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori. Following the petition, efforts to promote Te Reo Māori grew, leading to initiatives like Te Matatini and Kohanga Reo. The Waitangi Tribunal claim of 1985 asserted that the government had breached the Treaty of Waitangi by failing to protect Te Reo Māori.
Te nāna koutou ka maumahara i ngā wāhanga ētoru o te ture mo Te Reo Māori. Ko te tuatahi ko Te Reo Māori hei reo tūturu mo te whenua. Ko te tuarua he whakamana i te reo i ngā whakahaere o te ture. Ko te tuatoru ko te whakatū i te komihana mo te reo.
The Tribunal's findings highlighted the importance of Te Reo Māori and recommended measures to address its decline. As a result, the Māori Language Act of 1987 recognised Te Reo Māori as an official language. The Māori Language Act also established Te Taurewhiri Te Reo Māori, the Māori Language Commission, to promote the language and ensure its survival. This recognition led to various efforts, including Māori language immersion schools, kura kaupapa Māori, language revitalisation programs, and initiatives to incorporate Te Reo Māori into mainstream education and media. Te Reo Māori was on the path to becoming a living, thriving language again. How is Te Reo Māori doing today? The current status of Te Reo Māori reflects both progress and ongoing challenges. While interest in the language has grown, its usage remains uneven across different sectors of society. Approximately 19% of the Māori population can hold a conversation in Te Reo. About 4% of New Zealand's population, which is close to 214,000 people, speak Te Reo Māori, according to the latest census data. The number of speakers of Te Reo Māori has been steadily growing over the past decade. Māori people are leading Te Reo revitalisation. Around 9% of all early childhood education centres in Aotearoa offer Te Reo Māori immersion. That means that young children spend a large portion of their day in a Te Reo Māori environment. About half of mokopuna Māori attend early learning centres where Te Reo Māori is spoken for more than 11% of the time. The number of speakers and learners is important, but whether people value the language is also crucial. Support for Te Reo Māori has been growing. Recent polls show that 56% of New Zealanders agree that signage should be both in Te Reo Māori and English, and 3 in 5 New Zealanders think Te Reo Māori should be a core subject in primary schools. There has been a resurgence of Te Reo Māori in media, arts and ceremonies. Efforts to teach the language in schools and promote bilingualism have shown promising results, although barriers like unequal access to education and limited resources remain. Everyone can support the revitalisation of Te Reo Māori. Start by using the words you know, support tamariki in learning the language, and participate in events during Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori. Now that this module is coming to an end, we invite you to think about these pātai. Even better if you have a group of friends or colleagues to talk about these. We invite you to discuss, share your experiences, and learn what you can do to support Te Reo Māori. We also invite you to explore these resources to deepen your connection with Te Reo Māori. Our journey through the history and revitalisation of Te Reo Māori is ending. Tēnā koutou for your time and attention. Let's celebrate the beauty and resilience of Te Reo Māori together. Kia kaha Te Reo Māori.